any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
KBLA Talk 1580. So excited to do a Black Marriage Monday. I love this feature. I hope you do too, because I don't want us to neglect our chops in terms of doing better in our personal relationships, and doing so with the guidance of some people that are actually qualified to help us do just that. When we know better, we do better, like the saying goes, but sometimes we assume we know, and we don't always have good information. Pleased to have back in Ayize and Aiyana. They're high school sweethearts, but they've been together for 27 years, married for 20. And their love, their devotion to one another has been an inspiration to a lot of us in the work that they do in their work lives and online. Ayize Ma'at is a trained functional family therapist, a professional social worker, and a certified marriage and relationship educator specializing in couples and family work. Aiyana is a trained psychotherapist and clinical social worker. She's also a certified marriage and relationship educator specializing in couples and family work. Mr. and Mrs. Ma'at, welcome back.
Yes, thank you for having us. I'm so glad to be back.
Absolutely.
When I'm not obsessing on news, which is kind of my job, I like to unwind with some nice, what I call junk food for the mind. I like to watch 90 Day Fiance, just really dumb stuff that kind of lets me, not think about what's going on in the Middle East or on Skid Row. And one of those examples is the show Love is Blind, where these people go into an experiment where men and women date each other without ever seeing each other. And then they have to propose to someone before they get to meet that person. They commit to marrying someone, and then they get to hang out together for a couple weeks of engagement before they actually either go ahead with the marriage or call it off. And in this season of Love is Blind, one of the couples gets engaged. Izzy and I forget the girl's name, Stacy. They get engaged in the pods. They've never seen each other. They fall in love. They get engaged. They're hot and heavy in romance. And then, a spoiler alert, it all kind of falls apart when she finds out he has a bad credit score. So I thought it might be worth talking about romance and finance today. And I want to start by asking you both. I guess we'll start with you, Aiyana, since Stacy was the one that was like, nah, you got bad credit. Do we talk enough about finance? How should we be approaching finance? Is it even an issue? Should love conquer all? Where do you stand on that?
This is a great question. And, I think that there's been a lot of, especially, in popular culture and social media and that kind of thing, there's been a lot of talk about looking at credit scores and finances and, what's okay and what's not okay, particularly in terms of whether or not a man is going to be able to provide for me and that kind of thing. One of the things that I think is really important is to acknowledge that I don't know that that's always been a part of the conversation. And I think that it's okay and I think it's healthy to get into looking at, where are you and what are your goals and how are you doing financially and that kind of thing. But the thing that always gets me is how black and white people are in their thinking when it comes to where they feel a man should be with regards to his money and his money management, and he need to have everything together. And I always ask the question, so with regard to yourself and your own goals, whether it be, in work, in career, in finances, whatever, are you to the level or to the standard that you're expecting? And even if you are, what is it about us that sometimes does not have the ability to operate in the gray? Because I think what's most important is that we got to be willing to look at what is possible. And there's a lot of popular little sayings, real cute sayings like "Don't date potential. You got to see what they really got." Right? But one of the things that I know is that it's a mixed bag. So yes, you need to have some parameters, but I don't think that, if you just have flat out, you have a bad credit score, I'm sorry, I can't date you. It's really about your mindset. It's about the deeper kind of conversations you can have. It's about, your plan and are you taking any action to move that forward? And real talk, in a lot of successful relationships and marriages, there's one person who's stronger on one area than the other person when it comes to money and finances. Kind of putting out this very monolithic idea of a man and that he should come having all of these things checked. I just think that's fairy tale land, and I just don't think it's real life.
Okay, I'm going to kind of ask you the same question, Ayize, and I'm glad you addressed that, Aiyana, because it's true. It's all the no scrubs, ain't nothing going on but the rent, no romance without finance. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we have this sort of, I think we don't even, in some cases, talk about it at all. How would you address that, Ayize?
One of the key, thanks for asking that question, too. I think it's a very important question. One of the key pieces that we often lift up when it comes to developing a relationship is emotional safety. It's really core. It's really foundational. And in fact, in order for you to have a thriving relationship, it's pivotal for you to, to have one that's long-standing. And so emotional safety enables you to have those conversations around these different aspects of who you are, specifically finances. And so one of the things that we've seen, like the research speaks to that, when it comes to being in a relationship, you'll have certain problems that are perpetual and then certain problems that are solvable. The overwhelming majority of problems are perpetual. So it's speaking about personality, just who you are as a person, how you flow, what you like, what you don't like. But then you have those solvable problems, and solvable problems would be inclusive of those things like your credit score. It can be fixed. It can be adjusted. You can make changes and shifts as it pertains to that. And so too many people try to blend the two and make the solvable problems the perpetual ones, which is where it becomes problematic. And so I think that if you were to separate and see what can actually be fixed, what can be worked on, and, make a decision to approach those things, then it makes it easier for you to engage into the relationship instead of lumping everything together. So I would definitely say it's an issue. However, it's an issue that can be fixed. And one of the ways that you can do that is by creating a sense of emotional safety so y'all can have the conversations around it.
Yeah, that's true. So that you can feel secure in being honest. Because I think in a way, some people may get mad at me about this, but I don't really care. In a way, we as women almost encourage men to lie to us because we have these, all these ideas about what, he has to have, what he has to have. And at the same time, men almost encourage women to be that gold digger because a lot of men do lead with what they have or what they pretend they have. So, I mean, honesty in terms of finances, I imagine, is a huge issue, right, Ayize?
Yeah, absolutely is a huge issue, and it's not just women. Interestingly enough, I think that as a culture, we encourage men to show up in a particular way as it pertains to finances. Over this past weekend, I was watching a clip where it appeared as though this brother was shaming another brother for being in process, and I think in many respects, Dame Dash may have popularized this notion that if you work for somebody else, you're not a boss. How can you have somebody else feeding your family or taking care of
Right.
your family, giving you a paycheck and that type of thing? And so, and there was some pushback in the conversation with a brother who was earning, I believe, like $17 or $7 an hour, whatever it may have been. There was some pushback because his wife had expressed, or his girlfriend had expressed, that she was happy, she was satisfied, she was pleased. And so he was pushing up against the notion that because I'm not a entrepreneur, because I'm not making X number of dollars, I'm not a man. What is that? And so again, it's not just women who are, pushing this narrative that you have to be at a certain place in order to make me happy, in order for me to be satisfied or taken care of as a wife. It's also men too who thrust this idea of this boss-like mentality. And again, we are bosses, but it doesn't mean that you have to be uber wealthy to be a man, number one. And then number two, it doesn't mean that you have to be uber wealthy to ensure that your family is taken care of. And so I think that collectively we have a responsibility to reshape the narrative so that men who are in process but are handling their business, there's room for them as well too. And
And
so we
by
need to
in
be able to
process, you mean they're in the building phase. They're
yeah,
creating momentum for themselves and their family from whatever level they're at.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Not putting it all on the women, but looking at what our expectations are as a society. What does it mean to take care of your family? It reminds me, Aiyana Ma'at, of a conversation I had a long, long time ago with my play auntie, Miss Shabazz, Malcolm X's eldest daughter, who always said, success is how we define it. It's not what somebody else says. It's not it's not a number. It's not a title. And so I guess part of it is about making sure we have the same values and being on the same page. So how do we do that?
That's it. That's it right there. And I literally was going to say, oh, look, we just got to say this word. This is really about mindset. We're examining bank accounts and credit scores and all this kind of stuff. And lots of people out here providing financially, but they're not providing emotionally. They're never in the house. They don't spend no time with you. They don't really care about what you think. But they met those things, but we're not looking at them as a whole. And so, it's really about being able to look at what the values are. So understanding each other's financial values and beliefs, having conversations around that, because, for example, some people prioritize saving for the future, while others are like, you know what, I'm living life now. I can't take that money with me. So they prefer to enjoy the present. So it's really going to be important to find out what your values are and where they align so that you can at least find common ground. You want to be able to be in a place where when you're dating, you can observe financial behavior. So people can talk about one thing, and we all got our values that we profess. But what we do from day to day, you're going to see that when you are with someone and you are, really spending time with them. And then how do you share financial responsibilities? Do you have financial goals? Like having these open and honest conversations and then pacing the conversations, pacing the getting to know you process is important so that you can really understand at the heart of the person that you're looking at whether or not they really are somebody who has long-term compatibility, availability for you financially. Because if they align with your own goals, your mindset, they're taking actions, you see the behaviors, then all of that is good. But if it's just about looking at a mark and saying, you don't fit this, then that's just one small component of a greater picture.
Talking with Ayize and Aiyana Ma'at. They are therapists and marriage and family educators, certified at that. And if you have a question, some conversation, a concern about finance and romance or anything else in the relationship space, you're encouraged to call 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. When we come forward, Ayize, you said something that got me thinking and ruminating, which is permanent versus solvable problems. How do we know the difference, especially when it comes to money? We'll look at that and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Attention small landlords who own 12 or fewer residential rental units. The City of LA Emergency Renters Assistance Program is back to help small landlords and is now accepting applications. Apply for up to 6 months of rental arrears for low-income residential tenants behind on rent. Applications will be accepted until October 31st, 2023 at 6 p.m. Go online 24/7 at housing.lacity.org or call 888-379-3150 to see if you qualify and apply today. City of LA Small Landlords. This program is for you.
In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, children are the future. Here, tobacco companies are committed to higher education, offering scholarships to students who submit essays about the benefits of vaping. The tobacco industry even sponsors summer camps for kids. Don't worry, the tobacco-sponsored programs have been linked to leaving your kids more interested in smoking. In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, the world's deadliest industry is your child's friend.
See reality at undo.org.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. So minivans, sedans, JDMs, roll out. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. And with eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
On your period, sudden gushes happen without warning. But now, you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Only 1 in 5 people with autism are employed, despite many having the skill set and desire to work.
Maybe it's because employers don't know what kind of jobs they can do. Like, what about a programmer?
That's a job for someone with autism.
How about a healthcare worker?
Yep, that is too. People with autism can do a lot of different jobs, but often get overlooked due to outdated stigmas. Introducing WIN by Autism Speaks. We help businesses lead the way in inclusive hiring.
What about a ranch hand?
To learn more, go to autismspeaks.org/win.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, so I started out talking about Love is Blind because the story of Izzy and Stacy really brought up a lot of issues around finance and relationships. And this is a Black Marriage Monday. And even though Izzy is really named Ismael and he's Latino and Stacy is white, I feel like these issues they come up in every relationship. In fact, one of the reasons I wanted to do Black Marriage Monday, the last Monday of the month, is because that's when folks are talking about bills and stuff like that, fighting over bills. So, Ayize, how do you tell the difference between a permanent problem and a workable problem? Stacy was mad because Izzy was on a 1099, which meant he didn't have benefits. She was angry because he had a poor credit score, and he hired a financial planner the day after that and tried to start, fixing it. But is it, how do you know if it's just a poor credit score or that guy just has bad habits, financial habits that are going to be a lifelong, like, sort of style or personality piece?
Well, so I do want to say this to be clear that in terms of the pacing process of a relationship, the way that they do those types of reality shows, they expedite everything. So everything is very fast. So a part of the issue is that there's not a lot of time to figure this stuff out. And so if you had the luxury of more time, then some of these things it would come out in the wash. But in terms of perpetual problems versus solvable ones, I'll speak specifically about perpetual problems first. And so if you have more time in a relationship, some of the things that you're going to look for are a person's beliefs, a person's personality as it pertains to the finances, their beliefs when it comes to when we should spend, how we should spend, where we should spend, and then also too lifestyle desires, whether or not you want to live a wealthy lifestyle, whether or not you want to live a moderate lifestyle, and you're comfortable with that. So if there are problems that, basically revolve around those areas in terms of personality, belief, lifestyle desires, then again, these things are ingrained in the person. When it comes to solvable problems, these problems are problems that, things that you can actually work through a process of communication, through negotiation, and just practical solutions like implementing a number of different things to try to fix it. And so when you say that the day after he started to work on a remedy to whatever the problem was lifted up, then again, that right there is a solvable situation. So it may look like budgeting disagreements, like if you have challenges around how to allocate money for expenses. And that's something right there that can be worked out through conversation, through communicate and discuss and negotiate, whatever it may be. And then also to spending priorities. These are things that can be worked out through having increased conversations. If you're aligning on, what should be prioritized when it comes to spending and how you should utilize discretionary income. So those things are things that can be discussed, those solvable things. But when it comes to, these perpetual problems, again, time is an important factor for you to be able to determine whether or not it's perpetual or solvable. But you'll be able to see somebody's risk tolerance, the more time you're able to spend with somebody. And so somebody may be more inclined to invest in stocks while the other person may be hesitant and gun shy when it comes to like volatility on the market. So these are things that, again, you see over time based off of somebody's risk tolerance. The other piece, too, is that power dynamics are at play. You'll get to know what the power dynamics were as it pertains to finances in that person's family of origin. And so did the father, did the daddy, make all the money, make the decisions as it pertains to finances, or was mom doing that? And so when you see those experiences and you get to know a person better, then again, you get a chance to be able to understand, how they'll flow over the long run and what's more deeply embedded in that person. And so if there is a significant income disparity with the couple, what's embedded in that person in terms of how they operate? How did daddy and mommy deal with those situations? Auntie and uncle, what are you used to culturally as it pertains to those dynamics? Again, those are more ingrained in a person, which may lead to them being more perpetual issues.
Yeah. Well, and that plays out in this show too, because Stacy is a skinny blonde woman from a wealthy family. Her dad pays for everything. Her dad even says, Aiyana, love sometimes wants to fly first class. So that sounds like maybe a permanent social. I'm thinking class, social issue, that people do overcome those differences, right? But how do you do that? If you say, well, this person is, an upper class, pampered, whatever, and I'm a working class so-and-so, can you overcome that? And is that something we want to overcome?
This is one of those things. This is why I say to folks all the time, like, let's slow down when we're looking at some of these dynamics and not make these black and white kind of, contrasts, because you can have two people, right, who come from two different socioeconomic backgrounds, and they're really aligned on what their values are. They want to give back to the world. The person who's coming from a wealthy environment is like, with the people and wants to make sure that they, their wealth is not a barrier. They're very conscious. And then you can have two people who are, again, from two different, socioeconomic backgrounds, and it just does not work. They do not have goals and values that align, and one person is trying to get the other person to be where they are. There are lots of folks out here who want to retire early, who want to live in a certain neighborhood, want to have a certain lifestyle, and whether it's upbringing or culture or what have you, that's just a part of who they are and what they want, and they're not willing to bend on it, point blank, period. Now, we can all have our judgments about it, but the one thing I will say about folks who just have these, strong, like, cutoffs, like, I'm not dealing with that, I'm not doing that, is one of the things that is really important is that while I might say, okay, now, are you looking at the whole of the person in the situation? One of the things that you have to be clear about is, what is it that I am willing to do and deal with, and what is it that I'm not? Like, what's negotiable for me and what's non-negotiable? And when we look at these non-negotiable categories, again, I'm one who says it's way too many daggone things in that non-negotiable list. You tripping. But, I would rather people be clear about it so that they are not, going down a lane where they are unhappy and they are not going to be satisfied because of what they value most. And so I think it really is about the heart of the people, and they got to have some honest conversations about that in terms of whether or not they're able to make room. Relationships, as you know, are really about the blending of two people. It's not like you're going to find somebody who has the exact same background, goals, ideas, and desires as you. Like, I don't know where that exists at all. So even if you all have, similar kinds of experiences, backgrounds, you're still going to have some difficulty and some ways that you're going to have to make room for each other in terms of what's important to you. Like, forever, I always want to spend more at Christmas and want to act like I don't see the item line that says how much I'm supposed to spend and just pay more and do more. And my husband is always looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, why do we have to do that? Like, that's always an area for us in terms of spending at holidays and things that are important. And that's always been the case, but we've had to work through some of those differences. I've always, thought, private school is better. And he was like, I went to public school and it was fine. And we had to work through those things. Those are values that we have, but we've been able to be flexible in terms of how we talk about it. And I still am like, he's like, you're a little bougie. I'm like, I know, but you could be exposed a little bit more. That's fine. But we're able to work it out.
Okay. I want to hear how you do that after News, Traffic, and Sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Thank you for joining us on this Monday. It is October 30th. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Well, Apple is hosting another product event today, a month after introducing the iPhone 15. The online-only event, dubbed Scary Fast, is expected to show off the company's next-generation Silicon M3 chip and the newest iMac computers. That event gets underway at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Jonathan Majors' latest film is being delayed indefinitely amid his pending domestic assault trial. Majors is currently involved in a domestic assault case with his ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabari. The African-American actor was going to star in Disney's bodybuilding drama Magazine Dreams, set to premiere in early December. Well, over the weekend, the film's release date was removed. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Get big savings and big rewards during Provember. Save $80 on a DeWalt 20-volt 2-tool combo kit and earn 3 times the bonus points. While supplies last, selection varies by location. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 11/22, subject to change.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. All 4 of LA's major pro teams were in action Sunday. The Clippers and Chargers get a win. The Rams and Lakers came up short. The Lakers lost by 5 in overtime in Sacramento. The loss spoiled a monster game from Anthony Davis, 30 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocked shots, and 2 steals. LeBron had 27 but committed 8 turnovers. The Clippers beat San Antonio by 40 at Crypto.com, 21 points from Kawhi Leonard, 19 each from Paul George and Russell Westbrook. The Chargers beat Chicago to improve to 3-4, 2 interceptions by the Chargers defense. The Rams lost by 23 at Dallas. They fall to 3-5. Quarterback Matthew Stafford may have suffered a broken right thumb. The Rams hope to know more about the extent of his injury later today. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
At City National, we listen to you.
I want to expand my business
and my legacy.
I want to set up the next generation for success.
I want to see my vision come to life.
I want to feel right at home. Your goals, passions, vision, future. We want to hear it and work alongside you to achieve it. Visit cmb.com to learn more. City National Bank. Here for our clients and communities.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look, and unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at the gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Do you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare?
If so, the new LA Care plan called Medicare Plus can help you get the most out of your health plan for $0.
LA Care provides personalized service to Angelinos like us.
Plus, it gives us access to doctors and specialists across Los Angeles County.
For zero cost, we get access to full benefits.
From vision coverage,
in-home support services,
to prescription drug coverage,
and a quarterly over-the-counter allowance.
plus personal equipment.
Meal programs,
a gym membership,
And so much more.
for more than 25 years,
LA Care has provided Angelinos with access to quality health care at an affordable cost.
For our families,
our seniors,
our community,
it's a plus.
it's a plus
for all of us.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
And it's a Black Marriage Monday. We're talking with Aiyana and Ayize Mott. I want to mention before I forget that Dr. Joy DeGruy, the author of Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, was on this show on Friday. And one of the things that she said was building strong families, whatever your family formation is part of overcoming post-traumatic slave syndrome, was part of battling the renewed rise of white supremacy. It fortifies our communities in various ways. And I know I asked you a question, Aiyana, before we went to news, traffic, and sports. I will get to that, which is how do we mitigate those differences. But I wanted both of you guys to address that statement that Dr. DeGruy made. Do you see it that way? How can we be intentional about that? I don't know. Ayize, you want to tackle that first?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually do a training where we speak about overcoming generational curses in Black relationships, and we emphasize during the training just the impact, both the negative and the positive impacts that we've experienced as a people, and how we need to be more intentional to disrupt some of the negative patterns of behavior that we've learned to lean on, and that have been like maladaptive coping mechanisms. And so, for instance, this whole piece around keeping secrets, we've internalized like the need to keep stuff on the hush-hush based off of our historical experiences, but it's had a negative impact as it pertains to how we engage in relationships. And, we often hear the saying, like, what happens in the house stays in the house. But at the same time, too, like, we discount and ignore the idea that as a people, we're extremely communicative and communal as well. And so we're often extending ourselves to seek wise counsel. And so to think that you just have to resolve and deal with problems in your household by yourself and then suffer in silence is extremely problematic. And it leans more into an individualistic concept versus a communal one. And so we need to get back to engaging professionals, griots, therapists, other family members that are trying to support us from a positive space versus just feeling like we need to be in suffering in silence as it pertains to our relationships. And this ties directly into finances too, because if you don't ask for help, help won't necessarily come. And so you got to be able to voice, what the issue is in order for you to get the support that's needed.
Yeah. Aiyana, you want to speak to that? That idea of fortifying community, fortifying Black people by strengthening our relationships?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know that everything starts at home. And I think most people, for the most part, agree with that it starts in our household. And far too often, we're not thinking about the way that we flow in our relationship with our partner and how that's impacting how we flow with our children and then what our children do and how it impacts where they go out into the community and on and on and on. So some of the things we talk about when we talk about taking back our families, taking back our roles as leaders in our community, as mothers, as fathers, as husband, as wife, as people of power, is that we've got to look at some of the things that we have done over time that have become a new norm, but it is just, as my husband said, it is not the way of us as a people. And then some of the things, like you said earlier, that we actually incorporate Joy DeGruy's work into one of our trainings, like some of the things that come out of our history, like, being overly protective. And sometimes there is some learned hopelessness and helplessness. And, of course, there's fear and all kinds of things that we have to deal with as a people. But when we focus on our relationship first with our partner, having healthy communication there, expressing, what we're dealing with. And we have as African Americans specifically, we have a very unique kind of experience living in a society that is not always for us. So we have to be able to make room for the stresses of that in ways that, other folks don't have to. So all of that stuff is really important. And finances is one of those things that you just cannot get around, that all of those societal things, systemic racism, white supremacy, all of that impacts Black people. And I can't stand, I'm just going to say, I can't stand when I hear Black women talking about, oh, I'm tired of us talking about Black men and how Danny, what about me? And I'm tired of hearing Black men talking about Black women and what we need to do differently and how messed up we are. We got to come together and recognize that it's about building together, starting with our relationships. We need to attack the issue and not each other.
Mm. So back to attacking the issue, not each other. We were talking before News, Traffic, and Sports about this idea, that you have a more free spending approach to being festive than your husband does. And here you guys are, 20 something years later, and you're still, very much in love, very strong as a couple. How do you have ground rules? Do you have methods of talking about those differences? Because that sounds like it might go in the category of permanent problem or permanent difference, but yet it's not stopped you guys from being strong.
Yeah, so two things, and you're right, that's a perpetual problem, so it never kind of changes. But the way that we handle it is first, when we're talking about finances and money, it's never just about the money. It's always about an emotion under there. It's always like when you're talking about that issue, like somebody's feeling a little more anxious because you're doing too much, or, what are you doing with this money over here? Somebody's feeling a little more constrained, like I can't live my life. So we really actually do talk. I had to tell my husband one time, like, I'm trying to create a certain environment. This is how I grew up. And, it kind of feels like you just poo-pooing it. I mean, it wasn't really about the money. It was about me not feeling supported or like he really appreciated what I was trying to do for the family and the energy I was trying to create and all of that. And so, every time I was spending, he was like, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? So he understood at the heart of it what was going on for me in terms of the sentimentality of the season and what I was trying to create in terms of tradition. He could understand that even if he didn't, really value it in the same way. So we go beneath the actual money conversation to what's happening for you on the inside? What are you feeling? And then number two, we have parameters. So we have roles and responsibilities in terms of if I'm working hard and doing all this stuff, I want to be able to have some flexibility on how the spending happens. And so we create the goals and the limitations together. and then we really do defer to each other depending on what the category is. So roles and responsibilities are really, really important, because otherwise you'll be bumping heads the entire time, and that's no fun.
Right, and that dynamic can go either way in a relationship. One's more spendy, one's more savvy. It can be the man or the woman. I in my own relationships, I know one of us is always better at financials, right? So when I turn the question back to your husband, Ayize, how do you handle that, like that difference, and how do you make something that is, a long-term difference in your relationship that ain't probably going to change anytime soon, something manageable?
I take a lot of deep breaths and pray. It definitely is something that I have to woosah through. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's something that comes from my family of origin in terms of my approach. Excuse me, during this holiday season, and not just during this holiday season, but as it pertains to finances in general. And so I have to number one, give my wife grace. And I know who I'm in a relationship with, which gets back into that whole 90-day fiance piece. I know who you're in a relationship with,
right?
And you give yourself the ability to grow over time. And so I give my wife grace, and then also too, I intentionally look for the blessing. I intentionally look for the value. And so I think, we have this part of our brains called the reticular activating system. And so if I'm constantly focusing on the negative, then I'm going to see more negative. But if I choose to find the blessing, pay attention to the good smells, the good sounds, the family engagement, the smiles that I'm seeing on our children's faces, then for me, that's the reward in and of itself. And so, number one, I give my wife grace, and then I choose what I pay attention to, and I take an enormous amount of deep breaths and pray during that entire time period to make sure that I'm grounding and self-soothing in the event that I get stressed or overwhelmed based off of what's happening. But, and again, we're constantly in communication, too. So my wife, although she may tip her toe over the budget line, I'm paying attention, and I'm bringing the conversation up. And so we're engaging, we're talking, and then we're coming to new agreements. And so we're constantly ironing it out and figuring it out as we go along. So if I just put my head in the sand, then to me, it becomes more scary. And I don't want to take my hands off the steering wheel too much. And so, again, we can share the wheel. And I'm a participant in the process. I'm not just going ghost and just leaving her by herself.
I love that communication for new agreements. I do, when we come forward, I do gotta have Aiyana weigh in on what you brought up. Ayize, the Ma'ats are with us. You brought up the impact of these reality shows and this, and I think social media too, and the celebrity sort of relationship musical chairs. What impact does that have on our expectations and our understanding, our pacing in our personal relationships? KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
We're celebrating 1 year of the K. From checking out the vibrant art and diverse dining in Leimert Park to cheering on your favorite team in Inglewood, you can choose your own adventure when you ride the Metro K-Line. Leave the car at home and go Metro. Visit metro.net/K-Line.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose AmeriCorps.
Ugh, I don't have time for a cold.
Honey.
Honey?
You need DayQuil Severe Honey flavor.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honey-licious taste. Because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe Honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honey-licious. Power through your day, medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You absolutely belong here, and we see you, and we're talking about how to have healthy relationships. It's a Black Marriage Monday. You can go to blackloveandmarriage.com, spell out and Andy, blackloveandmarriage.com to find out more about what Ayize and Aiyana Ma'at are up to. You can also check them out on Instagram and on Twitter. And where else am I forgetting, Aiyana?
And Facebook.
Facebook, yeah, Facebook too. What's your address on Facebook?
And it's you can still find us at Black Love and Marriage. So all things Black Love and Marriage.
Black Love and Marriage. So I asked you about this. I was thinking during the break about how I'm always spending too much time on Instagram. And on Cardi B's birthday, Offset always gets her like 3 million roses and some, private jet flight to somewhere and, like some bling. And I kind of feel like, there's a tendency to think, my relationship sucks. My guy doesn't get me $7,000 worth of roses and fly me to, Rio de Janeiro. And then I think to myself, being a person in this space, number one, that might be BS. Like that could be the publicist. It could be sponsored by somebody, or it might be true. But is that the wisest thing for Offset to be doing with his dollars? And I just think, I guess what I'm wanting you to comment on is how all of these reality show timelines that your husband mentioned and these timeline realities, how do they impact our expectations of relationships and how can we moderate that?
I think about this a lot because I think that if you can't already tell, that it really, for me, gets people into some unrealistic expectations about, what love looks like and how it develops and the speed at which it develops, in real life. I think a lot of times the culture in our society, as well as looking at these shows, really gets people in a real high pressure place, and they just have a distorted perception of what love even is. I think there's so many people who are, emphasizing like extravagant gestures, like you just talked about, as a sign that somebody really loves you and is going to be there for you. Like if you don't display this grand, a big thing of affection, then somehow you don't meet the mark. And I think that, if we think about reality shows, they've got to highlight these major contrasts. They got to show wealth disparities and, these really major differences and dramatic kinds of conflict in order for it to be interesting. And so while we know that conflict is normal in a relationship, I think sometimes too, people unnecessarily highlight and amplify the things they're dealing with and don't recognize that it's a normal part of the process based on some of these shows. So, I watch some reality shows, okay? And I'll be all into it. So I'm just going to be telling the truth about that. But I will say this. I think that, it gives us great stuff to think about and to consider, when we're looking at our own lives. But I think I'm concerned about just how people think that love develops and what the normal expectations are. And I think there's, without good commentary and stuff, there's a whole lot that can be really taken out of context.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that means there's a signs that I'm getting a little bit less dumb, because when I watch these shows now, I can sort of tell when someone's lying more, when they're BSing, and I can start to see trouble on the horizon before it comes, especially with my probably favorite of these terrible junk food for the mind, which is 90 Day Fiance, Ayize, because you can kind of see the problems developing. And on the bright side, maybe it does help us look at the family origins and traditions of people that we're getting involved with, rather than just their seeming financial status and their good looks. When we come forward, I want to hear from both of you guys on kind of your advice for us in so-called cuffing season when it comes to being less dumb in making choices outside of a reality show timeline in relationships. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products designed smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Ink Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions and limitations apply. Cards are issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
It's a Black Marriage Monday around here. Ayize and Aiyana Ma'at, Black Love and Marriage on all the social media platforms, and blackloveandmarriage.com if you want to keep getting smarter once we get off the air with them. But look, we started out talking about finance and romance, and so I wanted to ask you guys during this cuffing season of bling and illusions, tinsel, how we can, some simple advice how we can make some better choices. Aiyana, you want to go first?
Sure. I always say this, right? Like, there is definitely cuffing season, which is the same time of year that, seasonal sadness can take place. And so there's, when we talk about seasonal sadness, there really is research that talks about the fact that when we go into the colder months and this time of year that, folks can feel heightened loneliness and sadness, and you want to be with someone, and it's the holiday. So I want to just normalize that. But the number one thing I want people to think about is pay attention to your patterns. Because I think at this time of year, we oftentimes are a little more desperate, shall I say, to be with someone, to have someone to take to the function. So my thing is, go on and, you know, date someone, find someone, what have you, but what's your pattern? Just make sure that you are not open to trying to make something into something that it's not. And so if we don't know what our own patterns are and we can't pay attention to that, then we're going to find ourselves going down that same lane. And so everybody's is different. I think that's important.
Ayize, giving you the last word here.
Yeah, I would just say really quickly that it's okay to get to know people, to date, to try to look for someone. But at the end of the day, I think that it's important that, you know, if you're not aligned and you're not taking the time to be aligned, if I were you, I would choose to lay down with a blanket instead of laying down with a bird. Lay down with a blanket instead of a bird. So I would go that route.
Instead of a burden. Oh, my goodness.
A blanket, not a burden. Get you a Build-A-Bear. Ayize and Aiyana, thank you guys both so very much for being with us. I've learned really a lot just listening to you guys talk, and I hope that soon our KBLA delegation will stop being chicken and call in and get some advice and share some of their stories with us. And I'll talk to you guys next month.
Thank you.
Okay, talk to you. Bye-bye.
So somebody from the KBLA delegation actually emailed me and asked me to bring back the quotes. So in honor of cuffing season, this one's from Aiyana Van Zant. She says we have to learn to be with ourselves, not by ourselves. With ourselves, not by ourselves. Back to that blanket. Tavis Smiley is up next. You know that. He's got a great show on deck for you. Shout out to the Coliseum and everybody who did an excellent job on the HBCU Classic this weekend. I heard it was a great, great time. And I am Dominique DePrima. Find me on the social medias at DePrima Radio. Find us at KBLA 1580. History is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, stay safe, stay warm. One love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for joining us on this Monday. It is October 30th. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Well, Apple is hosting another product event today, a month after introducing the iPhone